हाँ भाई, क्या हाल? So in this video series we are going to be talking about how to build a simple blog website or a blog app, whatever you may prefer, using Next.js. And for the dynamic API stuff and like connecting to the database, storing stuff on the database, we are going to be using TRPC. Essentially TRPC allows us to have types across the board from the backend till the front end. It has been a little bit trendy because of the T3 stack built by this guy, Theo. So I have been using it for quite some time, like not really quite some time. I've just built a couple of projects, but it is really good. The performance is not great. We are going to be trying to optimize the performance, but the developer experience is basically unmatched. So let's get into what we are actually going to be building. As you can see on my screen, this is my blog website, which is on the URL rosekamal.love. Totally owning my weird name and buying this URL anyway. So essentially what this website is bunch of links, right? Because like this is a blog which is at this URL, right? But I don't want to write the HTML for every file. I want to make it dynamic. That is what developers do, right? Make it easier to update or etc. do stuff easily. Basically, that is what we do as developers. So the thing to do here is what most of the people do, most of the developers do, is write their blogs in Markdown, which is a format of formatting text in the simplest syntax that is possible. So for example, if you want to have a heading, you just add a hash before the text. It makes it the h1 tag in HTML. If you add two hashtags, it will make it a h2. If you want to bold the text, you just add two asterisk, like after and before the text. It will make it bold. If you want to make it italic, you can just add underscores before and after. So we'll look into the Markdown format later on, but what we want to do is have a bunch of Markdown files in a folder, probably posts, and then with the help of Node.js and the backend, basically we are going to be getting those files using the FS library, file system library in Node.js, and then compile those Markdown files into HTML. Once we have the HTML, then we can send it to our client side, which will then render that HTML on the page. So this is essentially HTML, right? But I have written it in Markdown. This is the blog part of the website. There are some other routes. So essentially like this is my about page and these are the list of all my blogs, and this is the home page with a bunch of links and a photograph. The great thing about Next.js is it allows us to do static generation. So for example, in React.js, if we are getting some data from the backend, every time the page loads, it gets the data and then renders the UI. What Next.js allows us to do is render these pages before we deploy. Essentially we get the data and then build the UI and then upload it the HTML itself with no JavaScript. If the JavaScript is needed, then it will be fetched and added to the page later on. This allows the website to be extremely fast. So for example, here if I change the route, snap, it changes the route and renders the UI immediately, because it is not really changing the UI. It is just it already has the HTML. It is just showing it. It is not rendering it again and again. Same thing with the blogs. If I open a blog, it does it instantly. The conversion of Markdown to HTML, then the rendering of HTML doesn't take any time because it has already been done. It is not being executed right now. It has been done prior to the deployment stage, in the compilation stage, so that we get the raw HTML itself, which makes our website extremely fast. And about the API routes and stuff, what essentially I'm going to be building is guestbook. What guestbook is, people who come over can sign stuff on your website. So for example, let's just say I'm some random guy. I'm definitely not named Rosekamal. I'm named a very normal person like Ayush or something. And I type in, hey there, I am Ayush and I was here or something. and your coding sucks, I guess. It doesn't though, but who cares? There are some typos. Let me just fix that real quick, and it should be capital, I guess, because it is a name, basic English. Now they click on sign and it should be on the screen. This is what we are going to be using TRPC for. Essentially, it is just a bunch of requests like adding stuff in the database and storing in the database, and it also requires some authentication on the part, because how will I know who signed, right? So we will be implementing authentication. Discord authentication is like already like built in the T3 stack that I talked about, who was built by this guy Theo, and we will be adding GitHub authentication to the boilerplate itself. So let's get started. In the next video, we are going to be talking about why Next.js and what are its benefits and what is the basic architecture of a Next.js application. Until then, you can groove on to some music.